But straight up after the news, we've got Jeffrey Miller, a geopolitical expert on how to get those hostages out of Gaza. News Talk ZB.
Getting the information you need on your drive home. It's Heather Duplessis-Allen Drive with One New Zealand, one giant leap for business. News Talk ZB.
Good afternoon. Israel is gathering troops at the border with Gaza, preparing for a ground offensive. They are hoping to get hold of the more than 100 hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to destroy Hamas's military capabilities, calling up 360,000 reservists to add to its standing army of 170,000. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden's issued a warning.
To any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't.
Jeffrey Miller is a geopolitical analyst with the Democracy Project. Hey, Jeffrey.
Good evening, Heather.
Are countries going to listen to what he's just said?
Well, it's hard to say at this point, Heather. It does feel like we're in uncharted territory, to use that old cliche at the moment. It feels like a 9/11 moment. And who knows what's going to happen. You know, at the moment we've got Hamas, a terrorist group which is in charge of Gaza, facing off against Israel, but it could become a much wider regional war if other countries become involved more directly. Remember, Hamas is backed and supplied by Iran. That's where all the missiles come from and the weapons. And, that's the main country that supports Hamas. But there are others involved, Lebanon, Syria in particular. And, then if you extrapolate from there, you've got the likes of Russia, which is a main supporter of Syria, has close ties with Iran. If other countries, other players become involved, it all could become very messy very quickly.
Do you think it has the potential to spiral out of control?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the scary thing about this. There are so many countries that have an interest in the Middle East, and if they all want to press their interests, it could really spiral out of control. And remember, you've got a whole lot of countries that have got hostages now being held in Gaza. It's not just Israel. Even the US, for example, has got around 20 of its nationals who are unaccounted for. Some of those will be hostages. And many other countries as well, France, Germany, the list goes on. There are a lot of countries that have got much at stake at the moment, and Hamas knows that. They captured those hostages for a reason.
Do you think they'll be able to get those hostages out?
It would be very unlikely to get all of them out, but certainly Israel's going to try. The largest number, of course, are Israeli nationals. Many of them will be dual nationals, and they have a duty to get back their nationals from Gaza. Well, exactly. I mean, Hamas will be using them as bargaining chips. So remember, there are 5,000 Palestinians in Israeli jails. They might be swapped for those at some point, or they might be used to, secure a ceasefire to get some other political gains as this war, goes on. So, it's really a big unknown at the moment, what will happen to those hostages.
How long before that ground offensive starts, do you think?
Well, that's really hard to say. You don't just start a ground war, from one day to the next. It takes planning. Israel will have war plans on file, but they need to be updated, and you need to be sure of what you're doing. If you look at Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it was months. Remember that military build-up on the border with Ukraine before the invasion actually happened. If you look at the US and Afghanistan after 9/11 or Iraq, it's something that takes at least weeks, if not months. I think we're probably talking weeks for it to happen. But, it could happen tomorrow. Israel, of course, will benefit from the element of surprise, so they're going to be keeping their cards close to their chest, and we're not probably going to know until it happens to try and use that element of surprise. It's a very small area, Gaza. It's about the size of Wellington City, not Greater Wellington, but slightly bigger than Wellington City, and they will be defending every inch of that area from Israel's offensive.
Jeffrey, thanks for your expertise. Appreciate it as always. It's Jeffrey Miller, geopolitical analyst at the Democracy Project.
Heather Duplessis-Allen. Thanks to MyHR. This is News Talk ZB News.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm Raylene Ramsey. A geopolitics expert says Israeli strategies for recovering hostages taken by Hamas could follow multiple avenues. Israel's death toll since the attack has climbed to more than 1,000, and return fire on Gaza has killed more than 900. Democracy Project analyst Jeffrey Miller says Israel is assembling a ground offensive, but it could take weeks to carry out. He says Israel could also pursue other options.
There are 5,000 Palestinians in Israeli jails. They might be swapped for those at some point, or they might be used to, secure a ceasefire.